Hey, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to start a new series. I'm here with Sam St. John, resident Tom Petty aficionado and expert. And we're going to do a Tom Petty series with the Heartbreakers, a little bit of Mud Crutch as well. Chronology, break it down into decades. We're going to start, this is part one, by the way, 1970s. So we'll showcase the three albums. Pretty brief synopsis of each. Pick three favorite songs. Talk about the album a little bit as we go. Next week we'll do the 80s, 90s, so on. And at the end we'll rank the entire discography. Sam, great to have you aboard for this. Look forward to doing this. Can't wait.
Yeah, anytime that I get to talk about Tom Petty with you is awesome. And actually, I think this is kind of how our friendship started, was doing a Tom Petty video.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was probably about going on 3 years. 3 years ago, I think we did
a bit of 3 years. Yeah.
We did a Tom Petty top 20 songs. If you haven't checked that out, I could actually link it in the description below. We've also done. Didn't we do one of his? We did "Damn the Torpedoes," did we not?
With JC, the flip side. Yeah.
With JC at the flip side on our classic album series. So we have a little bit of history working together, doing some Tom Petty material, and looking forward to this. And we figured it would be easier to break it up into decades. 3 albums this time. I think we have 5 in the 80s and so on. And
yeah,
we'll get to the end of it, and it's easier to digest this way. And anyway, let's talk about the individual albums. The first album, of course, Sam has his. I have mine.
Wrong album.
Whoop, I have the wrong album. Sam, disregard whatever I have to say.
Never mind the man behind the curtain.
That's called a quick edit.
Yeah.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers came out in 1976. The debut album. A couple of familiar songs on it, like "Breakdown" and "American Girl," that are still FM staples to this day. We're going to talk about maybe some of the deeper cuts, some songs that we like that maybe you don't know and you can single out and check them out. So, Sam, give us a little rundown on this album, if you would.
A breakdown, if you will. This is obviously the Tom Petty album I got into after I started getting into Tom Petty. Like, this wasn't my introduction to Tom Petty by any means. One of those great, career debuts. I know that even from like the get-go, Tom Petty was known to be a rebel, to be, somebody that kind of bucked the system. And he always kind of laughed at that album cover because they try to like fit him into a box. And there he is, like a leather jacket and like a bullet like strap across his chest. I think they try to fit him into like the punk world. They try to label him as new wave because this was 76. So they're really trying to get him into like that. They're trying to fit him somewhere. And Petty said, "Nah, I'm none of that stuff." And you listen to the music, it doesn't match the album cover at all. But I mean, it's a great smirk on Petty, like, like, forget this. This is not who I am. But anyway, great debut. Is it, a top five Petty album for me? I don't know. But like you mentioned, it's got the 2 big hits with "Breakdown" and "American Girl." They're fast-paced songs, 2.5, 3-minute bangers, just all the way through, 30 minutes in and out. That great opener with "Rockin' Around With You," which I thought was cool on Tom Petty's 40th anniversary in 2017, which ended up being the final tour. They would open with "Rockin' Around With You," again, the opening of their career, and then they would close with "American Girl." So they were doing the first and last track on this album on that 40th anniversary tour, which I thought was really cool and kind of fitting. But yeah, I mean, just great songwriting. He's still trying to find his voice. He's obviously pulling a lot from the Byrds and Bob Dylan with his singing and the guitar playing with the Rickenbackers. But you have the classic era Heartbreakers with Benmont Tench, Stan Lynch, Ron Blair, and then his lifelong partner Mike Campbell. You've got some great studio players. You've got Dwight Twilley from the Dwight Twilley Band is on a track or two. Jim Gordon, the drummer, and so is Donald Duck Dunn is also on a track. So those are names that you saw all over the 70s and into the 80s. But Yeah, those are just some basic highlights, basic points for just my initial thoughts on this album. So I'm not sure what you think.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about coming along in 1976, because on the radio at that time, Frampton Comes Alive is like the number one album for rock. The Rolling Stones were in between albums. Bruce Springsteen's in between albums. Rumors hasn't happened yet. Hotel California is like 2 months after this album, so there's a little leeway in there. Tom Petty's a rock and roll guy to me. Forget the punk, forget the new wave. They tried to fit him in because punk was happening, disco was happening. There was a lot of different genres going on in the 1976 particular year. So he carved out his own niche, and like you said, the Byrds got a little Rolling Stones in him with the rock and roll feel. So that's who Tom Petty is, and it continued. His songwriting to me got better, progressively better with each album.
Yep.
That's the key. This is kind of rudimentary in a way. They're giving you a little taste of what they do. The second album, I think the lyricism's a little better and the structure is better of the songs. And then the third one, of course, which we'll get to, is arguably his best.
Yeah.
So we're going to single out some songs. What are your three favorite songs for this particular album?
Top three, from 3 down to 1, I picked the opening track as number 3, Rocking Around With You. I just think it's awesome. I got to see Mike Campbell play it back in November when I saw Mike Campbell. Really cool to see that. Fast-paced tune, great opener, nasally vocals by Petty. I love it. Number 2, I'm going to go with the deep cut, Mystery Man, which is the track 8 on the album. Got that country feel, that steel guitar playing. It obviously is pulling from the country influence that Petty had growing up in Gainesville, Florida, on the Panhandle. Yep. So Mystery Man for me. Love the Mike Campbell guitar. And then number 1, the easy pick for me, American Girl. Just jangly. Again, probably the most Byrds influenced on the record. I think the joke was that Roger McGuinn heard it and said, I don't remember recording this when he heard it on the radio, knowing that it was Tom Petty. But Rocking Around With You, Mystery Man, American Girl, just that great, 3, 2, 1. All two steady rockers and then a solid ballad. So
cool. My number 3 is going to be anything that's rock and roll. It's got a bouncy pop rock kind of feel to it. Breakdown is my number 2. Cracked the top 40. In fact, it made number 40. And that opening line, it's all right if you love me, it's okay if you don't. I mean, that laid back kind of Petty vibe. And I like that breath that he does after one of the verses. Do.
Yeah.
Just killer. Just amazing song. And American Girl, without question, is my favorite song on the album. Perfection, really. I can't think of a better Petty song. It's absolute perfection. And it ends the album.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he used to close his shows with it. The last song he ever did on stage, and unfortunately died 4 or 5 days later after that final performance. I'm going to single out Hometown Blues as a nice deep cut too. I like that little ditty. And there's a couple of songs on here that to me are filler. I don't know how you feel about them. Any that stand out as so?
Well, I guess my deep cut, I mean, obviously Mr. Man's a deep cut, so that's obvious. But I like Hometown Blues. I think it's cool. Great drum beat. Maybe the Wild One Forever would be the one on the album that I'm kind of indifferent to. Kind of about like a biker thing about the movie The Wild Ones. But that's probably the one for me that I would kick. But I love it.
And the album's structured well too. I mean, it's got a great opener, like you said, Rocking Around With You, perfect, energetic, and closing with American Girl. So solid album. And we're going to rank all these albums at the end, so we were not going to give away our preferences. So the second album, I hope I can hold it the right one this time, and that is You're Gonna Get It, 1978. Just a pretty good follow-up. This is one I've been listening to all week. I've spun it 5 times just to re-energize myself with the material again. And I do like this one. Just like I said, the song writing is better than the first one, and he's making progress. They're definitely figuring out their sound as a band. And what do you got to say about this one?
Yeah. Out of the three from the '70s, this is the one that I turn to the least. Not because I don't like it. And I should stay safe on this first episode. Tom Petty, in my mind, is the only artist in the history of music, in my world anyway, that has a perfect catalog. And I mean that like every song that Tom Petty ever, officially released, like every song is good. I don't think there's any song that I think is absolute garbage. There's not one song.
Right.
So that's my take here from the beginning. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a solid follow up. Crazy that it was 2 years later, which seems like a long time in the '70s to release a second album, especially when you're kind of a no name artist like Petty was at the time. And yeah, I mean, it's got that, there's great hits on it. I Need to Know and Listen to Her Heart back to back on the album. And actually, I prefer side two on this album than side one. Side one almost acts like a side two. So in terms of running order, I would have liked to maybe flip that, knock out those singles at the beginning, just like albums were at that time, and then go with your deep cuts or filler, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, great stuff on here. They're relying, I guess, a little bit more on the band and not so much studio guys. Like the studio musicians were already cut tremendously on this. And what I thought was cool, which I didn't know, was that the art director, first of all, I think it's a horrible album cover, but the art director's name was Josh Kosh, who was the art director at Abbey Road, who worked on Let It Be and Abbey Road for the Beatles. Which is like, you have those albums and you have, hey guys, stand next to a blue light bulb and, have this terrible font. But other than that, I mean, the music inside is great. Again, Petty shows up as a rebel on this album because you listen to the song, Listen to Her Heart. He has the line about, you think you're going to take her away with your money and your cocaine. Obviously, that was taboo to talk about for a radio song. But Petty said, I'm not going to change the lyrics. And so it didn't get as much airplay as maybe they wanted because of the drug reference. But yeah, I like the first album a little bit more than this. But again, I go back to this. And I'm always surprised at some of the deeper cuts that I kind of forget about.
Yeah, I like the opener, Joe. I like When the Time Comes, gets it off to a nice little jangly, catchy start.
Yeah,
Magnolia is one that stood out to me this time around as a really well written song, deep cut that not a lot of people would remember from him. And No Second Thoughts, a fantastic song.
Yeah. I love the title track. It's kind of like haunting kind of song, and then Too Much Ain't Enough I like a lot too.
Yeah. There's a couple on here that don't really grab me, like Restless is not much of a song, and I don't like what's it? Too Much Ain't Enough.
Yeah, the one I just talked about.
Yeah. I mean, it's fast paced. I like the guitar on it by Campbell. It does have a really nice searing guitar.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost got like an Oh Well by Fleetwood Mac kind of.
Yeah, that's right. What are you going to single out as your three favorites here in order or whatever?
Yeah, so 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go with I Need to Know. Again, fast paced, Petty lyrics, big hit. Talk on the Street says he might go solo. He's got that nasally kind of sarcastic voice. And then the call and response with I need to know. Like it's really good. Again, you can see why it was a single. Number 2, I'm going to go with No Second Thoughts. I think it's just an absolute killer song about, somebody cheating on a partner. She threw down her golden band, crushed it with her feet beneath the sand, took her silent partner by the hand. I just think it's fantastic. It's one that I've played a little bit on guitar. I need to play it a little bit more because I love the lyrics to it. It's just great storytelling. And then you got that great Dreams Fade, Hope Dies Hard at the end. So No Second Thoughts, kind of the ballad that I'm going to choose. And then top 10 Petty song for me, Listen to Her Heart. I love that intro, that jangle guitar. Again, I mentioned the line about, cocaine, but I just think it's a perfect pop song. It's just like American Girl. It's right neck and neck with American Girl for quality. Yeah,
those are my three also, but in a little bit different order. I have No Second Thoughts as my number 3, I Need to Know at 2, and Listen to Her Heart is my favorite off this album for the reasons you gave. I also like that scream he lets out in I Need to Know. I need to know. Ah! You know that.
Yeah.
But No Second Thoughts is definitely the one here
Yeah.
that stands out. That's not a hit. That's like the best non-hit, if you want to put
Yeah.
it that way,
I
on
agree.
the album. And the 2 that we mentioned that were singles, they really didn't get up into the upper echelon of the charts. I Need to Know was only number 41, and Listen to Her Heart, believe it or not, 59. So I don't know what people were doing back then. I mean, they were on the radio later because Petty became more well known, and they reached back and grabbed these songs, but they weren't individual singles hits on the charts
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
All right, now we're getting to where he really made his mark. I think the third
Yeah.
album, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, "Damn the Torpedoes." Now this cover is good. This is a solid cover.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic.
The band's not on it. The band's on the back,
That says a lot.
but the Rickenbacker guitar, as you can see, what am I doing? There we go, right there. Classic. Produced by Jimmy Iovine. He added a lot of punch to this album too, I think, with his production style, and they're really firing on all cylinders here. This is a fantastic album. Probably my favorite album of 1979 over everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and like you said, Jimmy Iovine was all over the place, and there's a great documentary, the classic album documentary, where they talk about this. It was like 2006 or 7 or so, and Jimmy Iovine was very hard on getting Stan Lynch, the drummer, because Jimmy wanted an actual studio guy, and the band kind of backed behind Stan, but Petty was kind of torn in the middle, I think, from what I remember. But yeah, again, crazy. This came out then just a year after the previous record. That great picture, he's holding Mike Campbell's guitar, I think, at that time. They only had the one Rickenbacker in the band. But yeah, this was the album that a lot of people put as their number one. Again, we won't give away what we think on that, but yeah, I mean, half of the album is essentially the greatest hits, and then the other half of the deeper cuts are, you know, solid songwriting. This one rocks for most of the record, and yeah, I mean, just like you said, it kind of solidified the Tom Petty sound. Again, the same lineup for these 3 records, so there's not any personnel changes, and yeah, only 9 tracks too. So that says a lot for the quality that's on here, that they could get away with 9 tracks instead of the typical 10 or 11.
And they were writing longer songs. There's a couple of 4-minute plus songs, and then Louisiana Rain, the closers, 5 minutes and
About
54
5.
seconds.
Yeah.
So that they're stretching out their sound here, and well worth it. Top 3 songs. This will be interesting because there's more than 3 that are great.
Yeah, I mean, you could pick the first 3 songs on the record, but I'm going to go for my 3. From the number 3, "Here Comes My Girl," which is like kind of like pinpointing from like the Motown sound with like the talking that a lot of those groups on Motown would do. You know, sometimes I don't know why. Like he's got that. He's got that great, you know, "Watch Her Walk." You know,
Watch Her
part.
Walk. I love that. The spoken word. That's excellent.
Great video too. For this album, for this song, a lot of videos from this record. Number 2, I'm going to go with the closer, "Louisiana Rain," which I'll also count as my deep cut that I would push people to. Yeah, just a great track. It's got that country feel to it. It obviously this song could have fit later on Southern Accents, easy. Because it's Petty, you know, knowing stuff about the South. Great storytelling, and yeah, he talks about it a bit in that documentary I mentioned. So that's number 2. Number 1. You know, it's just the normal noises in here, Even the Losers. Again, right in the same vein, all my number 1s, "American Girl," "Listen to Her Heart," and "Even the Losers," all kind of have that jangle sound that I love. And again, great. Like as soon as the song starts, you hear him say, you know, "It was nearly the summer we sat up on your roof, smoked cigarettes, stare at the moon." He puts you right into it. And again, you have Marcy Campbell, Mike Campbell's wife, with that spoken intro on it. Again, when I saw Mike in November, his wife came out and did that before they played that song, which was really cool to see that. So yeah, "Here Goes My Girl," "Louisiana Rain," "Even the Losers."
Very cool. I have Even Losers at number 3. You get lucky sometimes. I like to smoke cigarettes and stare at the moon. That image always gets me. Number 2 is Here Comes My Girl. You mentioned everything about it. Watch Her Walk, spoken word. My number 1's Refugee. It just kicks ass, leads off the album. Decent size hit, number 15 when it was released. None of us mentioned the biggest hit on the album as far as a single, and that's Don't Do Me Like That, which reached number 10.
Yeah.
Big hit. I still like it. It's just not as good as the 3 that we mentioned. My deep cut, I've got 2 actually. Shadow of a Doubt, A Complex Kid, a really hidden gem. And Louisiana Rain is just a fantastic song. I mean, that's just perfect closer for this album.
Perfect.
So there you go. That's the first 3 albums of the 70s. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. We're going to dig into the 80s next time out, which is really the MTV era. Even though some of these videos were made then, they appear in heavy rotation throughout the 80s. And we're going to go through all those albums. Also, we're going to have his first solo album, which came out in the late 80s. So be sure to check out Sam St. John's channel. Go over and sub him up if you haven't already. Leave us some comments. Which of these albums, which of these songs do you single out as personal favorites? All that kind of stuff. We like to banter back and forth. Give us some feedback, some thumbs up. We appreciate it. Stick with the series because it's going to be at least 5 parts as we go, and we'll then sum up a discography of Tom Petty's work to wrap the whole series up, and we'll rank all of the albums. Sam, thanks for joining me on this. I appreciate it and look forward to the rest of the series.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, Rich.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thank you.